Hi folks, so today I'm having a quick look at the SOG Terminus. This is a UK friendly sub 3 inch slip joint. It's bang on the 3 inch mark. You've got a millimetre or so to spare and no more. It's very similar to the Manly Wasp in terms of shape, size and so forth, but also for size comparison I'll just bring in the Victorinox. This is actually a claimer, but it's a standard 91mm Victorinox knife. So you can see it's a fairly chunky size of knife, and as I say, just close to the legal limit. It has, and my other comparator, my favourite comparator, the Enzo PK70, which I really like. You can see it's, it makes the PK70 actually look quite small. It's 68mm versus 75mm blade, that is. So the SOG has deep carry clip. It's a very nice clip. It goes in through the end, so when if you swap it over left to right, there's no plate like you have with knives like the Manly Wasp, which you think, that you say it's a relatively cheap knife, so maybe that's a cheap solution, but that's the same as say Hindra you use on much more expensive knives. But this is a much neater shape. There's nothing to see on the opposite side to the clip. So this has, but it has milled scales. It has steel liners. Unlike the Wasp, the liners are not countersunk into the handles. There's just a slab on a slab. The other big difference is this is not a traditional spring-back slip joint like as is generally the case with most, where you have a metal spring on the back. This is a flow-through design. You can see through to the back there, with a detent built into the pivot, which is quite unusual. Now this knife is quite stiff to close, but stiff enough to be safe. There is no half stop, but when you open it, it opens with a good, positive, reassuring click. Now the real difference between this and as I say, the Wasp, they're very similar in price points. The SOG is slightly more expensive, but the real difference is you've got SV90 steel in the S90V steel in the Manly Wasp, and a full flat grind. So it's hard wearing, probably needs sharpening once a lifetime, and full flat grind. So it's a really useful cutting tool. The SOG uses BT1, which is Nick Shabazz calls it barely adequate, barely inadequate. So it's good enough for daily use. The Delica uses it. It's good enough for Spyderco. It's good enough for me. But on the other hand, it does need sharpened more often. And in order to make it a cutting tool, they've given it a much finer final bevel than the Wasp, which doesn't need so much of a final bevel because of the full flat grind. This is more of a sabre grind, drop point, false edge, swedge, bit of jimping on the back, a little kick here to stop your finger going onto it. We've got a sharpening choil. There's lots of things going on there, and it makes it, and hollow grind as well, which makes it a very attractive knife to look at. There's a bit of billboarding, which is never the most attractive, but it's not too badly done. But the difference is you've got quite a relatively thick stock, with this sabre grind coming little over halfway up. You do end up with quite a steep angle and relatively thick behind the edge. By giving it a shallow final bevel, it has made it a cutter, but it's not a cutter like the Wasp or the Enzo, which are genuine razor blades. Still, it's a nice knife. I quite like it. It's a nice one to carry. It looks nice. The little carry The clip is nice, it holds well in your trousers. I put this little lanyard on because actually I found it quite difficult to pull it out of my trousers. Relatively little to grip, and with it being such a deep carry. But I thought also it looked quite nice. I had that cord in an appropriate colour in this bronzed titanium bead. So it's a nice knife. If you want a knife to cut things with, I'd go for the Wasp. If you want a knife that looks a bit more dressy, I'd go with the Enzo. But if you want a knife that, you know, just looks kind of cool, relaxed, wear it with a pair of jeans, works perfectly, it's a great knife.